This video uses cylinders to try to explain some basics of light and shadow and form on geometric objects like a vase. The important thing is your point of view or perspective. So if you're looking down on something, you're most likely going to be able to see the top of it, like looking at the top of this little cylinder here. Similarly, if you're looking up at something, you're probably going to see the bottom of it, like the bottom of this cylinder, which is hovering in the air. The last situation is when you're looking directly at an object. In this case, you can't see the top nor the bottom of a cylinder that is directly at your eye level. So there are three different states of perspective: looking up, looking at, and looking down. And depending upon which one you are viewing, the type of curve that represents the edge of the cylinder is going to vary. The curves furthest away from your eye are going to be more extreme than the curves that are closer to your eye level. So now the question is, how do you determine just what those curves are? Well, here's a rule of thumb to follow. The midway point of the eye level is a straight line across. If you then make a dot halfway between the top of the object and the midway point, and then continue making dots in the halfway mark between the midway point and the top of the curve of the cylinder, and then connect those lines, you'll have a curve. Follow that same process halfway between that line you've made and the top of the cylinder and the bottom of it, and this will give you an idea of how the curves might be drawn to trick your eye into thinking that it's a three-dimensional object. To further enhance the illusion of three-dimensionality, you need to make a grid. And to make that grid, use vertical lines. The first vertical line will be in the center of the cylinder, and then each successive vertical line going out towards the edges of the cylinder will be closer and closer together. So the grid that you make on the surface of this object is how you really enhance the illusion that a three-dimensional object is existing on a two-dimensional surface. And you can see how the grid really does make the object look like it is holdable and tangible. The next step is to work with how light and shadow plays on your object. And the first thing you do is select a light source. So in this case, let's say the light source is coming from the upper left-hand corner and playing down on the object. Well, the first thing is, how will the shadow look? And this is something where you're just going to have to eyeball it in and guess of where the shadow might fall. This is where the grid becomes useful, because in determining how the light will hit your object, you just kind of scribble along the grid lines of the object, and with the darker areas being away from the light source and the lighter areas being towards the light source. And this will help to give you some guidance as to how to shade your object. The same basic principles apply regardless of what your shape is. You make a grid, and then you scribble your light and shadow along the grid, and you'll achieve the illusion of three-dimensionality.